So good afternoon. Let's start today's session. Share the screen. Okay, let's dive into this topic. So we have this primitive data structure which we have just seen into, and the primitive data structure can be created as you seen here. So it can be created, it can be selected, it can be updated, or it can be destroyed or deleted. So it can be destroyed or deleted. So why we do that? So for example, if I say int a, okay, so it means a creation. So maybe you will select a is equal to 5, and so it's where you select this. So because you want to select integer data type for selection, I think both come under these two statements. Of course, you can also say int a is equal to 5 or so. And updating means you can also update this particular one. You can sometimes typecast it, or you can say a is equal to 6 or something, and you can finally delete it also. Delete in the sense, if you go for dynamic memory allocation, you will have this delete function with you. So you can create it and you can delete it, and in between you can select and update it, and you can do whatever operations you want. But these are the only primitive operations that are allowed. So if we come to non-primitive data structures, these are called sophisticated data structures. The reason is, when you come to primitive in the sense, it's like earlier technology, only zeros and ones. So if you arrange zeros and ones in a structured way, then it might be a integer. In another structured way, this might be float, and so on, right? That's what we have discussed about. But when you consider, a non-primitive data structure which uses primitive data structure, so you can say the data structure that are derived from the primitive data structures are called non-primitive data structures. Coming to this, the non-primitive data structures can be homogeneous or they can also be heterogeneous. Let us go into this example. So when you consider homogeneous, it means that all the values in a data structure are belonging to the same data type or the primitive data structure. Okay. Once again, I'm repeating it. If you consider array, you can only put all the values in the data structure as the same primitive data structure, belonging to the same primitive data structure. But when coming to heterogeneous, I hope you remember we can do anything in the lists, right? So let us give a small example with this. So take this Python tutor and explain to you. So you have something like L is equal to like this. I'll just zoom it. So you can put an integer, comma, 3.5 float, a k, a character, and a string. So you can keep it like this, right? So each one belongs to different data type, and you can also take a list itself as a sub list of the list. So if you say that list are the data structures, then 3 belonging to the primitive data structure integer, 3.5 belonging to the primitive data structure float, and this belong to the char. Okay, but these are non-primitive data structures. Can anybody tell me why these three are primitive data structures and why these three are non-primitive data structures? Why can we classify so in list? Any example? Why I'm classifying like that? Why can't you make this as primitive data structure? Did you had this idea now?
Yes, sir, because it is also stored as a sequence of characters.
Yes, correct. If you are saying these are primitive data structures, now you can see that 1, 2, 3. In that you also have this 3, right? That means 1, 2, 3 to infinity and -1, -0, -1, -2 to minus infinity are all primitive data structures belonging to primitive data structure integer. So you are using all integers in a list. So this data structure called list is constructed using primitive data structure called integer. And this is constructed using character, which is a family of integer. But the whole data structure list is constructed with heterogeneous. So heterogeneous in the sense we have different data structures of different origin. So few data structures are of primitive origin, few data structures are of non-primitive origin. Okay, now consider this one. If I am declaring array, if I am writing something like I want to take 5 values like this. So what are the values? Can you tell me randomly what values I can accept here first?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Why you said only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Why didn't you say 3.5? What could be the reason?
Sir, because arrays contain all the data types as same.
Yes, this is homogeneous. So that is the reason why we say int a. We never declared any data type for this, right? So it accepts many things in it of heterogeneous origin, but this is of homogeneous. This is in the sense that you only need to insert all the elements of a single data structure. Either you need to keep a float, or you need to keep integer, or you need to keep only characters like that. So if you want characters, you can say char a of 5, and you can say k I, okay, I R something, or okay, like that something. Writing all those things will be waste of time now. Okay, okay, right. The same thing here also you can go with float also. You can say a of 3 or something. Sorry, a of 3 or something, and you can write something like 3.5 comma 6.7 comma 5.7 something. Okay, this is how you can do it. So that is the reason why I say arrays are homogeneous in non-primitive data structures, and lists are heterogeneous. Other types of lists that you can find in Java or something like, you can say vector, and array list also. I think you can have these things to be heterogeneous, but arrays are strictly homogeneous, and they accept all the elements which are belonging to the same data type. Let's get back to our slides. So you can see that non-primitive data structures emphasize on structuring a group of homogeneous same type or heterogeneous different type of data items. Coming to non-primitive data structure, linear data structures, you can see the memory of the computer is organized in a linear fashion. So linear data structures having a higher authority when considering the non-linear data structures. So higher authority in the sense they are proud of themselves, and it is very easy for us to handle the linear way. Remember, I think I have told you the construction of a RAM example, how the RAM will be. I told you that each RAM will hold a bit. I told you how the bit functioning will be. Okay, it's like a torchlight, either on or off each bit. So considering 16 bits or 32 bits, you will have 16 bits, maybe you will have a resistor, and you have a number of resistors in a RAM, and based on the number of resistors, the size of RAM will be decided. So for example, if it is 16-bit resistor, You need to calculate for 4 GB how many resistors will be there in the RAM. So each emitting 16 on and offs, like you keep the 16 torchlights. One torchlight is glowing and the other torchlight is off. So the electrical impulses will be like that. So now consider, if this is the case, RAM actually starts with the address of 1 and ends with the maximum unsigned integer. So for example, if my system is 32-bit, that means 4 bytes, the maximum address that I can have, that means the maximum byte address that I can have in RAM is 400 crore change. 400 crore change, that is what is the maximum value of an unsigned integer in 32-bit machine. You can just check it out on the internet. So that means those many bytes can be stored. So 400 crore change bytes will be there, and each byte has its own address, and that much of memory can be accepted. And you remember, this is only, I'm talking about 32-bit, and if you go for 4 GB of RAM, you see how many bytes you can just allocate to it at a time. And so just check out in the internet of all these things, then only you will get interest in programming actually. Right. Now, memory is in linear fashion. That means the addresses are side by side. After a byte having address 1, the next byte will be having address 2, and so on to 1101, 1102, and so on to 1,01, 1,02, and so on and so on and so on. They are always side by side. They sit side by side, all the bytes with this sequential addresses. So linear data structure always encourages one after the another, right? So this is the reason why it is very easy for us to store. Considering non-linear data structures, it is like different things. You will have hierarchies or so. Maybe in trees you can say there is a node which is connected to two different nodes, and again these are connected to two different nodes. You see how I'm connecting. Imagine each node is an element, which is having a number. It is having 5, and the other one is having 6. The other one is having 7. So to go to 7, I can directly first go at the root node 5 and just go to 7, right? And to go to 1 or so, I can go from 5 to 6 to 1. That's all. Now in sequence, you need to arrange them in sequence like this: 1, 5, okay, 6, 7. So if you want to go to 7, 1 second, it is, yeah. So if you want to go to 7, you need to first go to 1 and then 5, then 6 and then 7. Now here, how many hops are there? 5 and 7 directly. And here, if you want to go to 1, you can go from 5, 6, 1. That's all. There is no need to touch these two elements here. So here you need to touch all the elements if you are calling the last element, right? So this structure is actually the non-linear data structure. This structure is actually the linear data structure. And in linear itself, in the previous class, I have told you that we have two types. One is sequential arrangement of memory, and the other one is random arrangement of memory. But still, they are all linear, one after the other. But in non-linear, they are not. They can be arranged in random location, and also they are not one after the other. They are something like connected to each other, as if you see in a big Facebook graph. So if you imagine Facebook graph, how many of you agree that it is non-linear? If you agree, can you tell me the reason why it is non-linear? Do you have an idea that Facebook uses a graph type of data structure for your side? Imagine that you are all nodes. Each account is a node. And your account is connected to your friend's account, right? So that node is connected to another node. That node might be connected to another node, and that is the reason why you have the friend suggestions. So how the friend suggestions come? Because you are connected to another node and that node is connected to another node, it might verify that you might be having this as a friend. So you both have a common friend. So like this, you can see you are having, this is your account, this is one node, it's your friend's account and your friend has another friend. And so you will have a small suggestion, which we will put it in a dotted mode. And they will say that he might also be a friend because you have a mutual friend. And that is the reason why we say that it's all depending on the graphs. And what you can do with the primitive, non-primitive data structures. So in a non-primitive data structures, just now I have said that you can traverse. So you can go through each element. You can insert new elements. You can select which element you want, like searching. And you can also sort them according to the ascending or descending order. You can merge them to different data structures. You can finally destroy them. So see how many things are there, and it comes under updation. Insertion, sorting, and merging comes under updation. You just verify this one. So what is the difference between this non-primitive and primitive? In primitive, you can only create, select, update, destroy, and delete. So now what are the common things that you have? Can you tell me? In both these things? So I have clearly given you that insertion, sorting, and merging are update. They come under update. Now, can you tell me what are the common things that you have in between these primitive and non-primitive? And what are the extra things in non-primitive? Waiting, I'm waiting. I'll show you once. Okay. I don't know whether you are sitting along with your book and pen. I am writing something. I don't know how you are writing. So sometimes you need to note down in the books, and then only it will help you. Now tell me, what is the difference between primitive and non-primitive data structure according to this? What you can do with primitive and what you can do with non-primitive in common? If you don't open, I will not proceed. I think I have told you many examples for non-primitive so that you can understand what everything in this mean, the points.
Sir, like, is a question, which of these should be primitive and which of these should be non-primitive? Actually, I'm not getting your question.
Yeah, the question is, I have clearly given that. Yeah, I get some messages also. Let's read it out. These are the things that you can do with non-primitive data structure. Okay. And the previous thing I have shown you already, right? The previous thing, it shows that these are the things that you can only do with the primitive data structure. These are the things that you can only do with non-primitive data structure. And I have also categorized them into one class like insertion, sorting, and merging as update. Now I have asked you what are the common things that you can do with primitive and non-primitive data structure? Did you understand my question?
Yes, sir.
So
Right, sir.
Srinidhi has given me a message saying that the traversal is the only different operation in non-primitive. Okay. Traversal is different from primitive and yes, all traversals. Very good. So Mohan, and Mohit also has written another thing like where selection and update and delete are the same in both. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, somebody is speaking now. Can you speak now? Anybody is trying to say something? Yeah, so using this, I want to just tell you that you cannot traverse zeros and ones, right, completely. So there is no traversal in the primitive data structure. You can select a primitive data structure, you can create it, you can update it, and you can destroy or delete it. But extra to that, you have searching and traveling for the non-primitive data structures, right? Selection is common, delete and destroy is common, updation is common. And in addition to that, you can traverse and search. So it indicates that, see, traverse and search itself makes a major difference. That means these are a collection of primitive data structures. Okay, PDS I will write. And in the sense that you are traversing from one primitive data structure to another primitive data structure and finding out your searching value, or you want to sort it or something, you can do it. But remember that these are the operations that you can perform. If you take stack, in stack also you can insert, you can select, and after inserting something into the stack, you can sort it. So in stack, we will call it as push and pop. That means you can delete elements, you can insert elements like that. Now you see, when I talk about stack, I clearly said that you can insert elements and delete elements. Now, when I said you can insert element and delete elements, the deletion and insertion or selection, whatever it might be, are these related? Come to delete. Whatever I'm speaking about delete, is that related to this delete or this delete? I will repeat the question once more. There will be a stack data structure where you will insert elements into it. After insertion, you can also delete the elements, right? This is what my statement is. Now I will ask you one question. I am saying that we can delete elements. Now the delete, is it this delete or this delete into data structures, which you will support for that statement?
Sir, in non-primitive data structure deleting.
Okay.
Non-primitive, sir.
Non-primitive. Okay, right. I think if nobody is saying primitive, I will now explain you. Now coming to stack, stack uses a data structure called arrays. So it is non-primitive data structure, right? And stack is also called abstract data type. That means stack has some operations that you can perform on arrays. That means you can insert, you can delete, and so on. But remember, if I delete the entire array, then I need to support this delete. I am saying that I want to delete the elements. So when each element is deleted, what is this each element? Each element is a primitive data structure belonging to primitive data structure. So that means that element can be removed or deleted, right? So 1 second. Okay, right. what happened to it? Yeah. So I think you understand it. I'm saying that deleting the element is nothing but it might be belonging to some data structure, right? So primitive data structure, either integer, float, or character. So when you are deleting a primitive data structure, so this delete will help, right? So this is the property that you are using there. But if I am deleting the entire array or the stack itself, then that delete will come. That means this one. Have you understood or any doubt in which I am saying now? Understood? So,
Yes, sir.
yeah, two of you said that it is non-primitive delete. Non-primitive delete is only applied for deleting the entire list or the entire array or entire vector or so. But primitive delete will be used to delete the elements, individual elements in a particular data structure called non-primitive data structure. So you can delete elements in an array in a fashion stack will allow. You can delete elements in an array in a fashion queues will allow you. Okay. So stack and queues are various operations that you perform on an array data structure in the way they actually specify. Okay. Right. So one final thing that we discuss is a primitive data structure is generally a basic structure that is usually built into the language such as integer or float that can only be directly understandable by the CPU. A non-primitive data structure is built of primitive data structures linked together in a meaningful ways such as linked list, binary search tree, AVL trees, and graphs. So clubbing all primitive data structures into one relation will form a non-primitive data structure. That relation can be anything. You can see that we have various civilizations, right? So each civilization has its own way of constructing buildings, and so you can say that we have in South India, most temples are constructed as Dravidian architecture, but the common thing is temple. So you have the North Indian architecture different, and in Maharashtra you have different, and in Bengal you have different, and coming to South, most of the temples are constructed in a Dravidian architecture. So and it is called so. Okay, so we have a lot of figures, you have a lot of sculpture on it. So the main cause for doing this is to construct a temple, but we do it in different ways. So clubbing all the primitive data structures is one real aspect that we are giving importance. But how we club them, how we arrange them is very important. That is what non-primitive data structure tells. Whether you need to keep them sequentially in the memory or randomly in the memory, or we need to approach them linearly or non-linearly. This is what you need to understand. Anyway, you just go through this PPT tonight after these classes. Read about them. If you have any doubt, you can ask me in the next class. I have already uploaded this in your Moodle. You can just go through it and download that PDF and check out. So whatever required until now, I have uploaded. I did not upload the whole PPT. So coming to arrays. So now I want to discuss with you C programming, because arrays are not allowed in Python. We need to again go for NumPy and all. So instead of that, I will discuss it in C programming so that you will understand what arrays is. Right. So I think we have discussed about arrays in Raptor once, right? So most probably we have discussed about one-dimensional array. So one-dimensional array is like this. You can either call it as a row or a column, that's your wish. I will call it as a row because it is in a horizontal fashion. So now when you call 2D array, you have these things, right? You see this diagram and you tell me how many rows and how many columns are there? Don't tell like that. How many one-dimensional arrays are there in this two-dimensional array, which I have rounded it?
4.
Yes, 4 one-dimensional arrays. So 1, next one is 2, next 3, and the next one is 4. These are the 4 one-dimensional arrays clubbed together, forming two-dimensional array. And if you have number of two-dimensional arrays clubbed like this, one after the another, like your cinema frames coming one after the another, then this is called n-dimensional array. Okay, I hope you will understand this. Now let's go for one-dimensional array creation in our C programming. And before that, I want to just help you to understand that each element in an array has its own address. See how the addresses are arranged? 0, 2, 4, 6, 8. Now, can you tell me, using this, how many byte machine this is? How many byte machine this is? Just based on the discussion that we had in the previous sessions, can you just tell me how many bytes this machine is really capable of? How many bits will be held by 32-bit machine in integer? I have discussed a lot of times these things. Just remember.
2.
Yes, tell me.
2, sir.
If you are saying 2, that's wrong. Then how many bytes an integer will be holding in a 16-bit machine?
2.
2. Then how come 32 also hold 2? 32 bits means
32.
how many bytes? 32 bits means how many bytes?
4.
4 bytes. So in a 32-bit machine, you will have actually 4 bytes, and in some 64s now they have increased the int size to 8 bytes because your RAM is increasing its size, and you have less price with more memory, I think, nowadays. So earlier, even for 64 also, you will have 4 bytes fixed. So now tell me, how many bits machine this is based on the example? First of all, which column you will check in this? Is it the index value or the address to find out how many bit machine this is? I have given a hint also now. Based on that, you can say.
The address.
Yes, that's correct. The addresses you need to check first. I had a message also. Let me read out the message. Yeah, Amruta says 1008, and yes, Pranay also says that it is address. Now tell me, you are looking into address. That's correct. Now, based on the address, can you tell me how many bit machine this is?
Sir, 2, sir.
Yes, it's correct. The reason is
Difference between
integer,
both.
yeah, your integer is holding 2 bytes. You can see this. The address of 10 is 1000, and the next address is gone to 1002. That means 10 is occupying 2 bytes, 100 is occupying 2 bytes, 20 is occupying 2 bytes, 500 is occupying 2 bytes, and 600 is occupying 2 bytes. And among the 2 bytes, the first one will be the address of that particular element. So that means 10 is occupying 1000 and 1001, 100 is occupying 1002 and 1003, 20 is occupying 1004 and 1005, and so on. So that means this is a 16-bit machine. But if it is a 32-bit machine, what could be the next address?
1004, 1008.
Yes, that's correct. So 1004. Next, after 4, 5, 6, 7, the next address will be 1008. After 8, 9, 10, 11, the next address will be 1012. After 12, 13, 14, 15, the next address will be 1016. Okay. So now you can clearly see that the definition of array is matching, right? So what is the definition of array I have told you? Array comes under which category?
Primitive.
Amma, what is that?
Non-primitive, sir.
Non-primitive. In non-primitive, in which category it will come? Arrays, of course. And what is the main definition of array? What is the single most important property of an array, which is different from lists? They are linear. anyway.
Homogeneous.
They are homogeneous is one part.
Homogeneous.
Yes, that's correct. Homogeneous is one part. What is the next important point?
Contiguous set of values.
In
Continuous
line
memory
where, sir,
allocation.
continue.
Yes, continuous memory allocation. Srinidhi also told that, and some of the people also are telling that it's continuous memory allocation. You can say in two types. One, you can say contiguous memory allocation, which is always meant for continuous memory allocation. Now let's check practically and see whether it is working fine or not. Okay, so you can see now that it is satisfying the definition of continuous memory allocation. So because it is allocating all the elements side by side with the addresses. If you consider linked list will be like this. You will have an element 10 here, and this 10 might be having an address 1000, as I said to you already. Okay, and this will be connected to some other random memory location in which 100 is stored. So you are 100 here. So imagine like that I'm writing something, and this is stored at something like 2000. See, this is the random memory location. These are not contiguous memory allocations. Even though after 10 we need to go to 20, it's linear, still it is non-contiguous, but it is linear and contiguous because we are allocating the elements to the side by side memory and they are tightly bound to each other. I think in chemistry, we say that some molecules are tightly bounded and some molecules are not. So in a solid state, your atoms or molecules are tightly bounded. But in a liquid state, they freely roam, and in a gaseous state, I think they're continuously rogue state, that is actually. So they roam like anything without any barrier or something to stop them. The same thing happens here. In an array, they are all tightly bounded. In a linked list, they are loosely bounded. Okay. Right. Coming back to the execution, let us see. Let me execute this and this. Okay. Vi array. H int main, and I think by this we also finish arrays. So I'm declaring an array. You can see int a of 5. So you will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in that. And now I want to print all the elements addresses. So now let's see what will happen. Printf, I will say %u a is one thing I am printing, right? Next, I will use for loop. I think for loop I have introduced when I am giving a demo on Python for loops, right? When I'm discussing about Python for loops, I have said like this. So all the declarations in C should go on the top. And so we will have I is equal to 0, I less than 5, I plus plus. By the way, what do you mean by that plus plus? Did I discuss with you?
Yes, sir. Increment.
Yes, it's increment. So increment in the sense, I will just tell you that I plus plus is equal to I plus 1. So simply one increment. If you want I plus 2, you need to write it manually here. I is equal to I plus 2 in place of this. But if you want just one increment, it's enough that you can go for I plus plus. So this is equivalent to Python for I in range 0 to 5. So it's equivalent in Python this way. So from 0 up to 5 you will go. That means 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's all. The same thing I have given. You see, I is less than 5. It starts at 0 and ends at 4. It will never touch 5. Comes out of the loop. So I'm writing the for loop to print each element %d a of I. So this is how I print array elements. Now tell me what is I here? What is I?
Index number.
Yes, it is the index number. I is the index number. So it will print a of 0. Again, the for loop will repeat. I will be incremented. This time a of 1. Again, it will go to the for loop. This time a of 2. Next a of 3, a of 4. So it will print like that. So you can see here also. So 0, the first one will be 0. Next 2 will be 1. 3 will be having 2, 4 will be having 3, and 5 will be having 4 as indexes. So if I try to print a of 2, what value will be printed here?
3.
3, because the index of 3 is 2. Right. Come down. So I'm printing all of them. Now I want to print the addresses also. So maybe I will print here itself. So this is formatted, right? So, and the address is %u because it is unsigned. Now this I will print as ampersand a of I. See how I am printing. So what does this mean? Can you tell me why I'm writing like this? Can you tell it in English sentence, somebody? Can you speak out in English sentence? Earlier in
Sir,
scanner.
the address of this
Yes, I am
particular
telling
element.
that. I am telling that. Please bring out the address of A's some ith index. So ith index, ith means 0 index, 1 index, 2 index, 3 index, or 4 index. So you're telling that bring out the address of A's ith index. Okay. Now this is how I am printing the addresses. I'll just do return 0 and end it. Let's do it now. So cc array demo.c. Okay, no need of to worry about warnings. Clear. So I will output it. Is there anything we are scanning? No, right. Did I print something that? Why it is doing the total this thing? So confusing. Let me go back. What I am doing here. The first one is printing like this. I need to go for /n so that remaining things will be printed, and here also I will put /n for the next line. So for each print I will go for the next line. Now it would be okay. Hope. Compile again and output. Yeah, you can see here. So what is A? So we have index, we have our first value 1 in our array. What is the address of the first value that you got?
400.
400.
Yeah, 400. Next one is 404 because this is my 32-bit system. It is occupying 4 bytes. Next it is 8. Next 12. Next it is 16. 416. And when I am printing A here, I am printing A. What did you actually expected in printing A? What is A here?
The array.
Yes, the array itself. Of course, A is like a normal variable here also, but A is something extraordinary. So when I'm printing A, I'm printing this one. Earlier, when I tried to print A, when A is just an integer variable, I tried to print the value. But now A is not printing any value. Instead, it is printing something called an address. That is the starting address of this one. You see, this is matching with this, right? So for this, what is the address? It is same matching with A. Now I will explain you something else. It's like your earlier example. Here also again you have indexes. The same thing. You will have A and you will have 1 1 0 1. Earlier in the morning class I have told you, right? You will have indexes. Now what happens is, now this is connected to the memory, and because you said it's an array, consider we have our 16-bit machine. So we have 2 bytes. Let us hope like that. So my example will be easy. So continuous memory allocation will be done. How? 1 1 0 1, right? The second one occupies 1 1 0 3, and so on. How many elements you want, the addresses will be passed. And now when I called A, when it looks into this one, it finds that this is an array. If it is an array, without index, you cannot print an element, individual primitive data structure. You cannot print a primitive data structure, which is an individual element. You cannot print this one or this one or this one and so. So what it does is it simply prints the address, which is pointed by A. So what A is holding the address is only printed when you try to print A in an array case. But if you do the same thing for a normal variable, you have A and you have 1 1 0 1 as an address. So in 1 1 0 1 you have a normal variable. So where you have stored 6. So this is connecting to this one. This is 1 1 0 1. Okay. Now you see, whenever I said I want to print A, it will check and finds it's a single element. So finally it will bring out the element and print it. But when I saw A, how do you print this one? You cannot, right? So for example, I have my apartment address. So my apartment address is something like 15 dash, example I'm telling. I don't know my address also. I only know my flat number. So 4 dash 1, this is what my apartment address. Now every apartment flat will have something like /1 /2 /3, right? If you do it like this, only the postman can deliver at the exact flat, right? Because each flat is actually identified by 1 /1 /2 /3 /4. But if you just give the main address, that's all, that is 15-4-1, is your post belonging to the whole apartment that everybody is addressed in that? No, you addressed one flat, but you did not give which index it is. Then I think it will be very difficult. Then only this address will be returned to you. That's all, right? That is what happening in an array. If first when you say A, it will first go to this address and finds that it is an array. And because in an array you have a lot of elements and you did not demand any element to be printed, మీరు ఎలాంటి element ని అడగలేదు కాబట్టి it will print the address. But if it is a single value, first it will go to 1101, finds it's a single value, and it directly prints the value in it. Okay, I hope you understand. Now in this case, what did you observe? So what is the address of the array now? Can you define the address of an array?
the address of the first element of the array is same as the address of the array.
Yes, that's correct. So as I told you, the apartment first flat's address is the apartment's address anyway. Okay. So the address of the first element of an array is always the address of your complete array. Same thing, right? Even if you write 6, right? 6 in a 2-byte machine occupies 2 bytes because it's an integer. So 2 bytes it will occupy. So 2 bytes means it might be having 1010 as the address, but how many addresses it will occupy? After 1010, the next one will be 1011. So 6 is occupying 2 bytes with 2 addresses. But if somebody asks you what is the address of 6, what address will you give now? Is it 1011 or 1010? Yes, it is 1010. The other one is not at all important because it's already attached to it. The same thing happens in an array. See, that is why I called it as a primitive data structure. Why 6 is a primitive data structure? Because it is occupying 2 bytes of memory. And that is why it is called data structure, but it is a primitive data structure. Coming to this array is constructed with primitive data structures and it is occupying how many bytes of memory? Seeing this, can you tell me how many bytes of memory it is occupying?
4.
4, not 4. I want the whole array data structure. How many bytes it is occupying? Just calculate a small mathematical thing. How many elements are there? Tell me.
5.
5 elements. Each occupies how many bytes? A primitive data structure
4.
occupies how many bytes? Here in our case, in our array case, which I marked now. See the addresses. Is it 2 or 4?
4.
4. You can simply say that these addresses, based on the addresses, you can say that element 1 is occupying 4 bytes, element 2 is occupying 4 bytes. So now calculate 4 into 5. How many bytes you are getting?
20, sir.
20 bytes. You can see simply, right? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. So from 0 to 19, 20 bytes it is occupying. The 6 is occupying only 2 bytes or 4 bytes. Maybe you can also say in our like our example. So without any confusion, I will go to 4 only. So 4 bytes of memory. So 1012, 1013. So a single element 6 is occupying 4 bytes, which are continuous memory allocations. It's a type of data structure. And like this 6, you have number of integers here. Along with 6, you are also storing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 continuously. Okay, there we are occupying the 4 bytes for one number. Here we are occupying 4, 4, 4, 4 bytes for 5 numbers. That is why this is called a non-primitive data structure, which is built using primitive data structure. This is called a primitive data structure, which is built using primary, zeros and ones. It's a binary representation. I hope you are now understanding slowly. Are you? Are any
Yes,
confusion?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So the way you occupy the addresses defines your data structure. How your addresses are arranged, how the elements are kept in the memory is what defines the data structure. So this is all what I want to discuss today. So now you understand arrays, and these slides have been already uploaded into your Moodle. You can just go through all the slides. If you have any doubt, we can discuss tomorrow, and bye-bye for today. Bye, all of you.